I enjoy interviewing religious people.
Yeah.
I respect anyone who has discipline, whatever the discipline is. What would your discipline be, or where do you want to go?
I think it's just kind of like what you said. It's important to have a discipline, especially in your spiritual life, in your prayer life, because everything flows from your relationship with the Lord. Without Him, we can do nothing. But with Him, we can do all things. He is the one who gives us the grace to do everything in our lives, right? And so I think having that constant conversation with the Lord, which is what we call prayer, is the most important thing. Because I've noticed that I notice even a difference within myself. Before I go in to pray and after I come out, usually of the church with the Blessed Sacrament, the Eucharist, after I come out of church and I've had about maybe an hour of prayer or so, I notice a difference. When I walk in, there are things that worry me, that are on my mind, that are in my heart, and that I'm agitated and things like that. When I walk out, I'm recollected. And there's a difference within my heart. There's a difference within the soul. And that I think a lot of things in this world would change if people prayed and had a relationship with God.
Well, that's kind of the idea, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what
is.
you're doing. You're promoting that.
Yep, absolutely.
So, but getting back to my initial question, I mean, how do you see yourself when you're 50, as a priest? What kinds of work do you want to do? Do you want to be part of a parish and be the main priest, or do you want to?
Yep.
The last guy I talked to was a Jesuit.
Yeah.
And he came to talk. He was a really nice man.
Really?
And a couple of years ago he was here. We had a fabulous interview.
And
he was here to talk about relationships.
Yeah.
And to help people with that.
Yep.
So tell me.
Yeah. So I mean, when you enter the seminary, so I'm a diocesan priest. So I studied for a particular diocese, the Fall River Diocese.
Okay.
And so. Usually when you enter the seminary to be a diocesan priest, you enter with the understanding that most likely you'll be working in a parish. You'll be working at one particular church. You could do other things. You could be working at a hospital, working at a school, and things like that. But most of the times, you're at a parish. And so I just love being with folks at a parish, and just doing all the things that a parish priest does.
Do you want to be in a city, or do you care where you go? Do you want to be in a small town?
Wherever the bishop wants to send me, I'm fine with.
Yep.
One thing that I really enjoy doing is, thanks be to God, I'm able to speak a decent amount of Spanish, and so I'd love to be, I've used it here. It's been a great blessing.
Yes.
And then, so one thing I would love to do is continue to use Spanish, wherever it's needed within the diocese here. So usually, like an inner city parish could have a lot of Hispanic folks, but there are also Hispanic parishes out in Cape Cod too. So I went to Honduras twice. There's a mission that the diocese had down there, and then I went to Guatemala when I was in the seminary. Kind of another mission trip kind of experience. And then, so there were great opportunities to use Spanish and things like that. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. That'll be of good benefit.
I hope so.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
It can't hurt. How do you view other religions?
Yeah.
Do you ever get into arguments with other Christians? Do other Christians ever give you, actually have the in front of you? I got a born again Christian friend.
Oh yeah.
And he's always trying to convert me,
Yeah. So.
And,
go ahead.
But he's tough on Catholics.
Really?
And I'm like, why? If you're a Christian, he's tough on the Pope. He doesn't really get it.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So have you had arguments about?
So
about
I'm not sure that I've ever had arguments. I do. Wearing clerics, and especially like going into like an airport or something like that, oftentimes you do find yourself getting a lot of questions. And what I try to do is I just try to explain the faith, because I think a lot of times people look at the Catholic faith and think to themselves, wow, I don't understand why they do this or that, or why Why does the church teach that? And so I think what I try to do is just try to explain the faith. And 9 times out of 10, when people have a clear understanding of what the church teaches, they say, okay, I get it. I might not agree with it, but I get it.
All right.
I get where you're coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so what would you say? What would you say to someone who's a born again that, should really be a Catholic? Who's he fooling, right? Who are you fooling? You should come back to being a Catholic. How do you get Catholics back?
That's a great question. I think there are many.
And right now especially.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. There are many Catholics in the world who have fallen away from the church for whatever reason. And I think our job is to just invite them to Christ, and Christ shows them what the fullness of the truth is, right? I think our job is to just be instruments of the Lord, always not bringing people to ourselves, but always pointing them to Christ. And then Christ gives them the fullness of the truth.
And how's that going? I mean,
yeah.
Are more people becoming Catholic? Are they coming back?
I
know you're brand new, and it's tough to answer that.
Yeah.
What are you hearing? What do you see?
I think the best way to answer that question is to just say that it's this one-on-one interaction. It's this one-on-one, person-to-person relationship. Yeah. And that's the way that people are going to come back to the church.
And I got to tell you, I'm not a religious person per se. I was brought up Episcopalian, I sang in the choir and all that stuff. Yeah. But I really respect the way Catholics kind of they give it to you, but then they lay off. Yep. They don't hound you.
Yep. It's got to be your personal initiative, right?
I think that's a bit of a problem, though. I think that if you were hard selling people, you might get more.
You think so? Maybe you're right.
Look at all the born agains and the evangelicals. They're hard sell.
Yep. Yeah, and I think so. It's certainly the priests, and it's also the lay people that need to be convicted and say, I know what I believe is true.
Right.
I know what I believe is the truth. And then simply to live it,
Yeah, and living it is...
it's half the battle.
It's half the battle.
Explaining it and living it.
Now, when you heard about what happened in Pennsylvania...
Yep.
What happened? What were your feelings? What did you feel?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this with Pennsylvania, with a lot of other news that has been circulating.
No, Pennsylvania isn't the only place where this has happened. This is phenomenally horrific.
Yeah. So my thought and my kind of reflections have been is that in 2002, when the scandal broke, particularly surrounding Boston and things like that, I was in 4th grade, right? So I didn't really know what was going on. But now, speaking to priests who were in active ministry as priests during that time, they talk about how each morning reading the newspaper was like another punch in the gut. It was just another just like day in and day out reading the newspaper. It was just unbearable to read, right? Mm-hmm. And so now I don't have a full appreciation of it, but I'm getting a full appreciation of just like another news story. It's very disheartening.
How is the church handling it? How did they handle it while you were in school? They obviously know that it's there, and they sure as hell must have known that it could happen again. So I know they don't want it to continue to happen. They want to change it.
Correct.
So how are they making it? How are they changing the behavior?
Yeah. So the bishops of this country have taken steps. They have. It may not be well known. There was something called the Dallas Charter, and that was a way to start implementing protection of youth and things like that, and just how are we going to be responsible. In most dioceses, if not all dioceses, there are specific offices for the protection of youth and safe environments. Yeah. And so there are concrete steps that are being taken.
What would you say to a parent who is a Catholic, who has children, who says, I'm a little concerned.
Yeah.
What are you going to say to me?
I mean, your heart automatically goes out to them.
You're going to hear this.
Yeah,
This is going to be
absolutely.
an issue that you're going to have to deal with.
For the rest of my life.
Probably.
For the rest of my life. Yes, absolutely.
And how does the church turn this around? I mean, so what would you say to a parent that says, I'm concerned? How I want to feel, how are you going to reassure me? Are they going to ask you? And are they asking you?
Sure, no, that's a good question. So I think just as Pope Francis is inviting lay people to be a part of, this reform of how are we going to concretely develop these things, I think you ask for the people's input. What do you think that we need to do in order to maintain safe environments and so on and so forth? And, just asking them, you as a parent, how would you feel most comfortable with, processes being dealt with?
Sure, that's a good answer.
And, honestly, I think a lot of parents, are, Father, this is difficult, for us and for you. What can we do to help you? What can we do to help the church? And
I think that question that you just posed to a parent, to say, how can I reassure you?
Yeah.
I think that's how the church has to go about.
And I think that's what a lot of things are going that way.
Yeah. And then you have to also show the public that there are steps now.
Absolutely.
This is what we are doing to make sure that nothing like this ever ever happen again.
Correct.
That's why I brought up the marriage thing. I mean, a lot of people are thinking, let them marry now.
Yeah. I think what it is that there just needs to be a fuller understanding of what celibacy needs to be. It needs to be nourished by prayer. It needs to be nourished by healthy relationships with other brother priests, with other lay Catholics. It needs to be a full and wholesome life.
Could you also, as a clergy, as the church itself, be much more willing to accept them, to allow them to gracefully bow out? It seems to me that they get stuck in a rut and they can't get out of it, and part of it is, well, there's no excuse for pedophilia at all.
Yep.
But if you have to leave, the church should be like, okay, go.
Yes.
You're not.
Correct.
It's okay.
Right. Yeah, and I think that would be a very good thing. Go. Take the time that you need. Go see somebody if you need to talk to somebody. Take your time.
But it's not as popular to be a priest as it used to be. So therefore, I see the dilemma in this.
Yeah.
I mean, how many kids graduated
with me?
Yeah.
In the seminary?
Yeah.
So in my class, I believe there were 10 of us who were ordained. So it's not the most popular thing, but in all of this, for everything that's going on, the one thing that gives us reassurance, the last words that Christ spoke when he was on this earth, he said, "Behold, I am with you until the end of the age. He will not desert his church. He will not leave us alone." And so that we trust that through all of this, the Holy Spirit is at work, and that we trust that the Lord will give us the grace to persevere. Clergy, lay people, anyone and everyone, we trust in his promise. So.
Okay. So you're getting ready to leave the island now?
Yeah.
Where are you headed?
In 2 weeks I go to Centerville and Osterville on Cape Cod and Barnstable. So.
What's over there?
So Our Lady of Victory and Our Lady of the Assumption parishes. So very excited.
So what do they do? They're going to move you around for a while until.
Yeah,
until you get the experience?
Yeah. So I think this upcoming assignment will be a little bit more permanent, probably maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, more or less. And then we'll see what the bishop wants to do from there. So.
Well, you're an interesting guy. I saw you walking the streets, and I thought I'd love to interview that guy. You're always nice and talking to people. You have a nice face, and you're smiling. That guy looks interesting. Let's find out about him.
Well, it was a pleasure.
It
was
really
an absolute pleasure.
Father. Good for you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your
Thank you.
career and All the best to you.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Thank you. We'll see you very soon.
I hope so. You'll see yourself on my TV channel.
Oh, good,
okay?
good. I'm looking forward
All
to
right.
it. All right, have a great afternoon.
You too.
See ya.
Bye-bye.